Hi all, welcome to this potential Player of the Year for the Bundesliga SBC guide. Now this is potential because while we've had Player of the Month Bundesligas this year, there is no guarantee that we will get a Player of the Year Bundesliga SBC, but regardless I thought it would be something wise to prepare for, just to give you ample food for thought and who to potentially expect. Definitely some nice looking cards to get excited about. Now what I've done is, because I've not seen anything to do with nominees yet or anything of that joys of being on holiday, so that's when I've been getting this video up early to give you plenty of food for thought. What I've done is I've went through all the league and just kind of thought, right, let's see who stood out this year, looked at stats from goalkeepers, defenders, mids, etc. And looking at it at the moment, it looks like we're going to have, from a goalkeeping perspective, could be someone like Sommer or Berkey. From a defensive view, you're looking at Ruslan and Orban for Wolfsburg and Leipzig respectively. Mids, you could be looking at Witsel, Brandt, James Rodriguez, Reus and Sancho and Marco Reus, and then you've got Jovic, Werner and Lewandowski for forwards. Now one big thing I will say is, depending how this plays out, and I'm hoping it plays out the way I hope it does, is if it works like the Premier League and works like Ligue 1 and we get a Player of the Year and a Young Player of the Year, this then has more potential to be exciting. It will be exciting from a content perspective, but also be potentially exciting from what cards to expect. Like for some people, if there's some cards that particularly want and they're conscious of maybe not packing them, then this can be leading to the opportunity of enabling that. I think from a Player of the Year perspective, you may find James Rodriguez, Reus, Lewandowski, Werner, Jovic kind of being the main Player of the Year cards. I think if you were to look at Young Player of the Year, you could be looking at Brandt, Sancho, Jovic. They kind of seem to stand out. It all depends how they work the criteria for Young Player of the Year, if they do it, of course. Because I'll be honest, if a Player of the Year, a Young Player of the Year Sancho popped up and it was like 91, 92, well, it would have to be at least higher than the Future Stars card, like say 92, 93 rated, and at least appealing to do, and it wasn't say excruciatingly expensive, because you've got to factor in as well, yes he's Bundesliga but he's English, so for like Sancho I would imagine it could be say 500k, 500k for a Player of the Year version of an SBC. Like if that was the case, I would very strongly then be considering it, but at the same time with Werner it would be very hard to dislodge him, because I really enjoyed him since getting the Birthday SBC. So that's when I would then have to hope and pray that someone like Brandt was to sneak in, or Havertz. That's when it then becomes a bit more or even Jovic. I will admit, even if Jovic was to happen, but I think Jovic, with the amount of special cards he's had, another SBC of him could seem quite lethargic. I think Brandt for another SBC wouldn't exactly be too bad. And the big question is, what type of card type would we get? Do we get the red Player of the Month type? Do we get the award winners type that I showed in the thumbnail? So talking about requirements, it's the usual schematics of, for the players it will be a case of the club, the rating, so like could be if it's, we'll use Reus as our first example, it could be Dortmund, so then you'll be looking at maybe Reus himself, you'd look at Toprak, you'd look at Witsel in particular. Witsel probably stands out above any. Götze, Kagawa if you can get him cheap enough, because even though he's not at the club anymore, you sometimes think Kagawa can work out quite cheap at times compared to other players, which is a bit strange really, especially in the Bundesliga. It makes no sense. You'd look at Sancho in particular as well, but you'd find Witsel would be the most common player that people will buy from a Dortmund perspective, and same for Götze, due to their, and Toprak due to their ratings. Then you would look at Germany, so you'd end up looking at Reus himself again, you'd look at Werner's base card, you'd look at Ozil, you'd look at Gundogan, you'd look at Farman, Baumann, those type of players, Khedira as well. Bundesliga, you go quite heavy between 83 and 87, so you'd look at Thiago, Müller, Tolisso, Coman, Ribery, Reus less so obviously, but if you kind of need Reus, and it doesn't hurt to at least have one in supply. Ribery, Robin, Witsel, then you'd look at Schüller, Neuer, Hummels, depending on requirements, and it wouldn't exactly hurt at the same time, in all honesty, having higher rated, especially depending how they set up the Bundesliga or German, or even a rated squad, because Reus for like a 98 team of like the year, team of the season, player of the year card would not be cheap, and I would hope, in simple terms, that you could just give up one of the player of the month versions. Like that would, I'll say this now, if they did player of the season upgrade for Reus, if you won it, and all you had to give up was, say, Reus, a player of the month version, so it doesn't matter which version it is, and then a rated squad, I would then say fair play. Like rated squad could be, say, 84, 85 rated, I don't mind, but as long as it's not excruciatingly extortionate. But obviously you'd then have to do a normal player of the season Reus version as well. If it's like James Rodriguez, you'd look at Colombia, so Falcao, Cuadrado would prove pretty popular, and James Rodriguez himself. If Werner or Jovic were to win for their teams, you would look at like Matic, you'd look at Forsberg, you'd look at Campbell, you'd look at Hasebe, Rebic, Orban, a special version of him possibly, or Halstenberg's left wing back. If Bayer Leverkusen win for Havertz or Brandt, you would look at their base cards, Bailey, Ta, Hydreki, and it would just kind of keep you well and truly covered. But as I said, I honestly don't know how they're going to play it out personally, but it will be interesting to see how they do it. I'm hoping we do get a player of the year SBC. Like the league itself, I have two versions of Sancho, so that would play into my hands right away. I've got Reus's highest rated at 94, I've got Brandt at 88, I've got Goretzka, I've got Werner, I've got like ample, and Da Costa as well, so I've got like ample Bundesliga special cards out with informs. It's just a case of hoping and praying that I can find a use for them if required. Like I'd be willing to sacrifice Brandt, Sancho, even the 94 Reus, if it meant I was getting a better version for next to nothing. That's the way I would look at it anyway. But it's all a case of wait and see. If we get a player of the year SBC, I'd imagine if we get anything, there may be information about it while I'm away on holiday. If so, I will tweet about it, but at the moment I thought I would at least prepare this video, give you not only time but at least an idea, to give you an idea of who could be nominated, what potential cards to expect, who also could be featured in terms of like routes, for example, because it's going to be not chaotic, but obviously with team of the seasons and ample player of the years going around, I would imagine for like EPL, Legoon, you may have other player of the years that may dot about, like, and it's just a case of being prepared for them. And they're not going to be cheap, but they're not going to be hopefully extortionate to the point where none of us can afford it, or gets to that point of where no one can afford it. But let me know, folks, in the comments down below, if we do get a player of the year SBC and a young player of the year SBC in the Bundesliga, who would you like? Like, what would you be happy to pay, and roughly what would you be willing to give up in return for it? So food for thought for you on that, folks. So take it easy all. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you all later for more FIFA 19 content.